We are still looking at the dangers of a vehicle entering into a side road. In this subsection, specifically at the factors that would obscure the visibility of one vehicle or the other, or as is often the case, both vehicles simultaneously. In the animation, we have this island section that is full of shrubbery, and so each vehicle is obscured from the view of the other vehicle. When we go through the animation, we'll have a look at what each driver could do to mitigate any risks or the chance of a collision. At this point, you can see that each vehicle is still obscured from the other. As the driver of the red vehicle now approaches this intersection, the best thing for him to do is to very slowly proceed with caution. And if getting to a point where the visibility is still obscured, then to very slowly edge his vehicle out into the roadway. This would allow any oncoming vehicles to see a vehicle approaching and slowly encroaching into the roadway and allow or compensate for that, either slowing down or to move into another lane that would leave more of a buffer area. So that's what the driver of the green vehicle should have done, although in the animation he wouldn't have had the chance or the time to see if there was any vehicle crossing over the intersection. But just as a matter of precaution, knowing that this is a section of the road where the visibility is obscured, it would have been less dangerous for him to travel along the right-hand lane. So the view along the right-hand lane to any of these driveways would have been more visible than what it would have been for any vehicles that are approaching from the oncoming side of the road. Here we have a real-life example of that. So we've got this middle lane or barrier area, and you can see there's vegetation. So this whole section is obscured from the visibility of oncoming motorists, and vice versa. Any oncoming motorists wouldn't be able to see vehicles approaching down this side. The best thing for a driver to do in this particular scenario is to travel down the middle lane, because we also have the danger of hidden driveways on the right-hand lane. So to travel along the right-hand lane would probably be even more dangerous than traveling along the left-hand lane here. But there is the middle lane, which allows a bit of a buffer zone on either side, either for the barrier on the left side or from hidden or concealed driveways on the right-hand side. This oncoming vehicle should have slowed down completely, coming to a stop to check for any oncoming vehicles and not just try to proceed across because he hadn't seen anything, because as was discussed, his visibility was quite obscured. So there is that collision. This animation shows a very common scenario. So there are a number of important points that we want to discuss over here. If you were to draw a straight line between the green vehicle and the red vehicle, you'll see that this van's right in the middle, and so is obscuring each driver from the view of the other. Now, the point I want to make in this animation is that as the drivers proceed along, you'll see that they both proceed at a rate which maintains their invisibility to one another. So as a driver, one might assume that as you're progressing down the road, you don't see anything on the oncoming side. One would assume then that it is clear, and vice versa. So the driver of the red vehicle progressing along this lane doesn't see anything because the visibility is obscured by the van. But one would assume that as you're progressing along, that at some point you would see an oncoming vehicle. One cannot make that assumption, because as the video will illustrate, that as you're progressing, it could be at the same rate that the oncoming car is progressing. So you maintain that blind spot area as you're moving along. So I'll just progress the animation and stop it at this point. If you draw a straight line, you'll see that the van's directly in the middle again. The visibility is still obscured. Progress it a bit further. If you were to draw a straight line, you'll see that that blind spot is still maintained, still can't see each other. And so now it's too late at this point to try and take any corrective action. And so we have the collision. Just to reiterate the point then, when you've got a vehicle that's between yourself and an opposing lane, never assume that there's no hidden danger on the other side of the vehicle that's between yourself and any oncoming traffic. As we saw in the animation, even as the drivers are progressing along, they're progressing along at the same rate to maintain that blind spot or that visibility from one another. Very important point. You'll see in a number of videos throughout the course this very same thing that takes place. Let's have a look at a real life clip of this, and I want you to see if you can spot the oncoming vehicle. So we'll go through the real life clip. As we do so, see if you can spot the vehicle, and then you can even come back and replay the clip, progressing it frame by frame to see whether you can spot the oncoming vehicle. And you'll see that what's been demonstrated in the animation is perfectly illustrated in this clip. Notice that right up until this point, this vehicle's visibility was obscured because of the van. And so likewise, for the driver of this vehicle, the camera would have been obscured. And because now they're in close proximity, there's that collision. They don't have the time to react. Let's just go back a section again. And as I said, you can progress this frame by frame, and notice that as we do so, all the while you don't see that oncoming vehicle. There's no warning signs or indications. There's no shadow. There's no reflection of a headlight. There's absolutely nothing to indicate that there's an oncoming vehicle all the way along. Still nothing. This is your first indication that there might be something. If the driver was situated in the left-hand side of the vehicle, at this point he still wouldn't have seen the oncoming vehicle, and only much later have seen the vehicle, and by then it was too late. So where you've got a vehicle in the middle of the road, then always act with extreme caution and actually assume that there's going to be some mysterious vehicle on the other side that's going to suddenly appear. And if that's your mindset, then you'll approach such a situation or scenario a lot more carefully. I've included this real life clip because we see there's a slight hill in the road here, and so this could block the visibility of any approaching vehicles, and that's what happens in this case. Because of this hill, the visibility of the oncoming vehicle as well as the camera are both hidden from each other. So the driver of the oncoming vehicle assumes, because he doesn't see anything, that it's safe to cross over the road. But as we progress the video, we see that that's not the case. So fortunately, no collision, but could very easily have resulted in that. And if you just pause the video at this point, you'll see that from the oncoming vehicle's direction, just this little bit of a hill would obscure any oncoming vehicles, especially if they're lower slung vehicles. And if a vehicle was traveling at a higher speed, fortunately that wasn't the case, no doubt because of the icy conditions, but one can imagine if this is during the summertime, the road conditions aren't wet or there's no ice, that vehicles might be speeding a lot more along this section, and so even less time to be able to respond or react to a vehicle that comes over the hill that you weren't expecting to be there, and so you can have quite a serious collision. So just watch out for any elevation in the road that could obscure vehicles on the other side of that elevation. In this clip, we have the driver of the bus that does the wrong thing. He goes onto the far side of this vehicle that's wanting to cross over into the side road, But as he does so, he actually blocks the visibility of this driver from any approaching traffic. So I don't know what the driver of the bus was thinking to actually do that, come and obscure the visibility for this driver. This driver probably feeling intimidated by the bus that's in close proximity to him. You can see right up close to his vehicle. He's no doubt feeling a bit intimidated, and so he's compelled to try and respond to that intimidation and decides to quickly cross, but with disastrous consequences. Please like, subscribe, and get notified.